Hey everyone, welcome back. I just wanted to tell you that I know I took an entire week hiatus last week. I was super busy trying to get that garage of mine done, and I got the second third of it. So, 2/3 done now. But I wanted to address a few things with some of the videos and some of the comments on some of the videos, which is like some of the entire purpose behind these particular week in review videos. But first, the Spurs video. That was quite interesting. I didn't realize how of a touchy subject that might have been. Like, it's kind of similar to the leg wrap thing. Like, I knew the noseband thing might be touchy, but I had no idea the leg wrap thing. But then the Spurs thing, I'm finding a lot of people like their Spurs. But anywho, I could see if you're looking from the outside thinking, okay, she doesn't like leg wraps, she doesn't like over tightened nosebands, she doesn't like Spurs, she's gonna hate everything else, she just rides bareback and bridleless and tells everybody that they need to. That's not true. I could see how that logic stream goes, but no, I'm not against everything. Soon we will have the bits video out, which is addressing like what's the humane versus inhumane way of using bits. Like, there are inhumane and humane bits that people use because sometimes people just want more and more force exerted, so they create more and more leverage and more spiky pains. But ideally a bit should be very smooth, and it's used as a tool for communication, not as a torture device. So separating the difference between bits that are used for force versus bits that are used for communication, what those two things look like, that's what's going to be in the bits video, for those of you who care. We're also gonna, I'm also gonna address saddles and saddle fitting, and I mean, I'm not a saddle fitter. I know what a saddle should look like, so it's also, I know what a saddle shouldn't fit like, and when to call a fitter, because they have so much more knowledge about like fitting a saddle to the back of a horse and which styles of saddles and all of this brands and all of this. They have way more knowledge than I do. So what I want to do is just address saddles as here's what you know, here's when you call a fitter, that sort of thing, and using a bareback pad versus a saddle, the pros and cons to both. I tend to use a bareback pad early on in training because there's so much change that happens to the horse's back that I don't want to have to call a saddle fitter every 6 months. Sorry guys, saddle fitters, I love you guys, but I don't have that much money to be calling you out to refit a saddle every 6 months. So honestly, my choice to use a bareback pad is really just for my seat equitation and to save some money. That's really that simple. Because a good fitting saddle will make a horse's life way more comfortable. But anywho, and then we'll address bitless, because bitless can also be an issue. Just because they don't have a bit in their mouth doesn't mean that there's problems associated with that. So just don't assume anything. Don't assume anything. People assuming that I am at the same level as what's being presented in my horse's training. Now that's an easy assumption if the horse is an adult and that's the extent of what they know. That's an easy assumption, but the horse that I have is still young. He's a 5-year-old. Some people might consider that older or middle, not middle-aged, but kind of like in the middle between old and young. But according to the tradition that I was trained in and the tradition that I believe in, according to bone and muscle development and what's been proven through science, because, to convince the masses, you need science behind you, right? According to all of that, 4 is a good age to start introducing equipment, and 5 is a good age to start sitting on them regularly. So Revan, I sat on him as a 3-year-old. I didn't really sit on him as a 2-year-old, but I sat on him, but I didn't make a move. I just wanted to see what he would do with it. And as a 4-year-old, I sat on him, we kind of led around. I kind of rode around a little bit, but it wasn't anything heavy, because at the time he wasn't really ready for it. Every horse is a little bit different, but he specifically wasn't ready as a 4-year-old. There's a lot of problems that were happening during that time. And yeah, but as a 5-year-old, he is a little bit behind, because I had a whole month where I had a middle respiratory infection, and I just couldn't get the energy up to ride. So he's a month behind because of me, honestly. But don't assume that. Just, I'm posting his training just so that you can follow along. A lot of it is very, very basic. But I did want to share something that I kind of fall back on when people are like, oh, you're teaching the basics. You must not be advanced because you're teaching the basics. It's like, no, that's not right. Because I will give them this, though. In traditional schooling structures, or like equestrian school structures, you have the trainer that trains the basics, and then you move up to another trainer that just does that intermediate stuff, and then you have another trainer that does the way advanced stuff. You kind of work up to that. I'll give him that. But a master. Now, I don't consider myself a master yet, because I still, I have to train, basically, I have to train a horse from beginning to end. I have trained a horse from middle to end, from beginning to middle, and anywhere in between. But I haven't started a completely fresh horse, like completely young, blank slate horse, to way advanced. So I consider myself a journeyman, but I like to have a master's mentality, because a master's mentality keeps you sane. But beginners, they want to go into intermediate. It's natural. Intermediate people want to go into advanced, because that's natural too. You want to get better, and you want to show your friends that you're like, oh, I learned this new thing. Advanced want to become masters, because like that's the next level. Well, I'd be a master. That's generally where that attitude comes from. But masters, true masters, have the mentality where they're not trying to show off. They're not trying to prove anything to anyone anymore. What they're searching for is back to basics. They circle all the way back to the basics, because after all of that entire journey from beginner to master level, they have realized how much the foundational basics are important, how much they impact the highly advanced stuff, like how much they impact it. It's insane great impact, because if a horse doesn't learn foundational basics, or a person doesn't learn the foundational basics really, really well, then if you get into, say, like half-pass, piaffe, all of that, you're going to have problems. And when you run into a wall having problems, it's generally something to do with your basics. Like there's something missing. And masters know, all right, what are the little things that are missing? I know what those are. Let's go back. And a lot of the times the students don't like masters because they make them go back to basics. Which I think is hilarious. It's just one of those perspectives that you gain after a certain amount of time. Just saying, when you're talking to somebody, keep that in mind, and then you'll know their mentality, and then you'll know what level they're at without them even telling you. Just saying. But yeah, so far so good with all of this. There will be more advanced stuff coming out, I promise you. The foundational playlist is being assembled. Now, the foundational playlist was actually something that I was thinking of putting into a course and selling. And after a lot of thought and review going in, at least some of it I will post as a free course here. Now, I can't promise the entire thing because the fundamentals, it's difficult for me to explain, but the fundamentals are fundamental. We'll just leave it at that. But the new classical solutions playlist, or the classical solutions playlist, some of the new things, due to people's comments on wanting to be advanced, I will start putting some advanced things up there and see if I can put together an ebook that goes along with it and showing you, like, here's Piaf. Here's Piaf. What's underneath of it? Like, what do you teach before that? And before that, and before that, and before that, and before that. Oh yeah, this is the basic. This is what you have to get really good at before you go to the next thing. We'll just go through some of the advanced, like the highly masterful advanced stuff first and go back to our basics, because that's the foundation. But that's what I got. Things are going well so far. We'll be teaching Revan some trotting work, although that will be off video because I need to have somebody with me during that time, and the person that needs to help me out does not want to be on camera, which is fine. I'm not gonna force the issue, so they are kind enough to help me out. So when Revan is teaching, basically what will happen is I will be up on top of him, and my helper will be on the ground telling him to trot like normal groundwork trotting, and I will also give the signal to trot from the saddle or the bareback pad, and we'll move him forward into the trot that way. We'll get him to do forward down because he's good at that, and then we'll stop, and then we'll continually do the walk to forward down trot transitions until he kind of like starts responding off the leg. And usually that can happen within like 1 session, 2 sessions, depending on the horse, depending on the weather, really. But the weather's getting nicer. It's less sluggish. It's less, no more 100-degree days, I hope. So, we'll see. But a lot of exciting things. Thanks for watching, guys. Thank you, Margie and Blake Brandon, for supporting. And thank you, Nick Lewis, for being a supporter as well. But thank you. I hope you guys have a wonderful time. Please be kind to other people, and please